Now we have a follow-up to KGW investigation. Earlier this month, we told you about an Oregon woman conceived through artificial insemination who learned her biological father wasn't an anonymous donor as promised.
Instead, she believes it was her mom's fertility doctor, who used his own sperm. Our own Kyle Aboshi has been investigating this for us. And Kyle, you have an update for us today.
Indeed, that Springfield woman and her mother, they're now suing. They've joined several other plaintiffs who claim the fertility doctor committed medical negligence and fraud. Early this month, we introduced you to Crystal McFeeters. The Springfield woman was conceived through artificial insemination at a Colorado clinic in the mid-1980s. At the time, her mother, Diane McFeeters, was assured she'd be matched with an anonymous donor. But Crystal always wondered about her biological father. Who was he? So like millions of other Americans, she took a consumer DNA test. It revealed she had at least 10 half-siblings spread across the country who shared the same father. According to a newly filed lawsuit, their father was the fertility doctor, Paul Jones, who used his own fresh sperm.
I really feel like he should pay. This is not okay, and he needs to know it's not okay.
Our sister station, KUSA in Denver, confronted Dr. Jones outside his Colorado home. He declined to answer questions. Last month, the 80-year-old surrendered his medical license in Colorado. Jones denied to the state medical board that he used his own sperm to impregnate multiple patients.